Sydney campus, which is on Gadigal land. Today I'm down the other end of Glebe Point Road, which is also Gadigal land, and the sun is shining after 2 weeks of very wet weather. And Gadigal land, or the land that University of Sydney is mostly on Sydney sandstone, which looks largely solid when you see it in the form of the quadrangle under the buildings on campus. But right now, if you look at it, it's just running, it's very porous, running with water everywhere. So hopefully if you come on a SSHARC fellowship, there'll be some better weather. But we are very grateful for the custodians of this land, and we understand it was never ceded. So thank you for coming today. I'm Lee Wallace, the Director of SSHARC, and I'm here to talk about the SSHARC fellowships that we have open currently. I'm going to be helped in that with Aisha Malik, who's the Program Manager, and Grace Swan, who's the Operations and Finance Officer. And we have a couple of special guests for you today, one former academic host and one current fellow who's here to talk to you about the fellowship programs. All right. Okay, so there are 3 types of fellowships. They're in 3 schemes: humanities, sexuality studies, and social sciences. I'll just let you know, you can select which scheme you're in, but we reserve the right to move you around schemes if that suits the overall curation of successful funding. So sometimes people have put in 2 different applications, but you could also just put in one application and indicate that you're perfectly happy to be regarded in any scheme. And I'd say we often get that because lots of the projects that are coming to us are multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. So we don't really have hard and fast understandings of humanities or social sciences. And it's a very, very broad understanding of what sexuality studies is as well. To be eligible, you just have to be a researcher in humanities, sexuality studies, or social science. We really target early to mid-career researchers. If we can, we find I've been running the scheme now for this is the 3rd year, and we find we get most return on early, or often get a lot of return on early and mid-career researchers. But Olga's here to tell you we can also get good return on distinguished professors who are coming in. So again, it's not exclusionary. It's a very inclusive understanding of what research excellence is and what research impact looks like relative to opportunity. So you do need to have an affiliation to an university or some other equivalent research or cultural organization. And you have to have a higher degree or equivalent professional or community experience. So it's not open to PhD students. So again, we're looking for somebody with a higher degree or equivalent. Of course, you might be, if you satisfy the other requirement and are still a PhD student, but not at Sydney, then it's probably worth reaching out to us to see whether or not you would fit our criteria. And again, we're looking for a track record in publication or grants or other kinds of research impact measures that you might have. And the only thing you need to keep in mind is the fellowships have to be taken up and the funds spent in the calendar year allocated. So this would be for 2025 for next year. Okay. All right. So again, the SSHARC fellowships are consistent with the SSHARC mission. And we use the program, we've activated this program in order to bring together early to and mid-career researchers to work with University of Sydney researchers in humanities and social sciences. So I really underscore that. This is about collaboration. It's about research collaboration. We're interested in bringing people in that want to work with people here on the ground. And for us, I think one of the measures of a good fellowship is that before the fellows even left, we're talking about next steps, bringing them back, or what the next phase of the project will be. So again, it really is about collaboration. And we'd like you to be here, ideally for a month, but sometimes we understand that's not possible. They're not hugely financially rewarding, the fellowships, but they're usually sufficient to cover travel and some accommodation in Sydney. And we would really like people to be here from March to November, which is when the university academic year is. So again, that's not a hard and fast rule, but we need to know that the collaboration itself could continue in January or December or January or February, where it's often very quiet here. We do run a fellowship institute in sexuality studies that's runs in February across Mardi Gras, and lots of the sexuality studies applications are often people who want to come in and contribute to that institute. So that's again another kind of instance where we welcome people to come here in February, and around that institute we bring in a lot of early career researchers from around the world. And again, this is a good example of how we use the fellowships, that we want to raise the reputation of Sydney in particular areas of research. So it's really not simply about advancing individual careers, it's about a broader mission to establish SSHARC in particular and the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences as a kind of beacon for exciting and innovative research and research impact. So what you would get if you were successful, I said, is a grant and aid towards return travel and accommodation. And in relation to that, we usually take account of whereabouts in the world that you're coming from. And we usually, whenever we can, we tend to load the grant and aid more generously to junior colleagues than senior colleagues, on the understanding that senior colleagues often have other funding available to them. So again, we do our best to find what we can, but the grants are usually in the vicinity for international travellers between $5,000 and $10,000, which I said would cover you for 2 weeks, or if you were clever on you people have, you know, you might be able to come here for a month. The longest we've had is people coming for 3 months. And again, we notice that the longer people are here, the more the collaboration blossoms along the way. So if you were here, you'll get, you know, affiliation to Sydney, you'll get all access to the computing and everything that's here. You also get access to the SSHARC open plan workspaces, which would give you printing and computer facilities if you need them. We tend to assume that you'll bring your laptop and we go from there. So it's a very, I think it's a very warm and welcoming environment. Some fellows never come in. They come in and they work in their Airbnbs, or they work with their collaborators and departments, but many fellows do come in and tend to come in, you know, 4 or even 5 days a week because they like working in that space. So we get good feedback from our fellows. I think we just sent someone back to Cambridge who wrote nicely on social media that he had never anticipated when he came here how important the fellowship would be and how many people he would meet while he was here. So we're very good at, when you land, we know you'll know at least one person, your academic host or collaborator, but we really do offer social brokering. So we can introduce you to other researchers across the full breadth of the University of Sydney, which is a very large university and includes nearly any discipline that you can think of. So it's a very comprehensive university: law, business, music, veterinary studies, and the big 7 multidisciplinary initiatives. So we would be connected to all of those. So if you needed introductions, we can set those up either before you arrived or once you were here. We'd also, when you're here and once you know what you want to do, we'd also be able to point you and your collaborators in the direction of other funding if you need it for other impact and outreach activities. All right, so that brings me to the role of the academic hosts. So again, the schemes are really designed to support collaboration. So and we ask that you have a nominated fellow from, the nominated fellow has an academic host from with the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. You may also have connections beyond that into the different parts of the university, like allied health or music or computer science. And as long as you can have a nominated fellow in FAS, in addition to that, that's absolutely fine. So again, it's very, we're very open to all sorts of multidisciplinary collaborations. The host will have to contribute to the application process, so they write a statement of support. And I said the most powerful applications tend to be ones that are grounded in a partnership or a conversation that's already taking place between the fellow and their host. And the academic host, that means that we have someone to work with us to ensure the impact of the fellowship before the fellow even arrives, so we can help set up things. Those activities, they could be at SSHARC, they could be hosted by other departments or schools in the faculty, or they could be hosted by other units or MDIs across the university. But it just helps us that it's not, we don't have to deal solely with the fellow, we can deal with someone on the ground here. And they just help us out with the reporting responsibilities as well, so that again, we don't have to chase fellows down, and but we can chase people on the ground down very successfully. So it just gives us another way of tracking the success of the fellowship and another point to get feedback on how it's working. Right, so that's academic host. So Olga, I'm going to turn over to you. So this is Olga Boychak, who is described as an early career research fellow. She currently holds a DECRA postdoc fellowship from the Australian Research Council, but I said it's a complete misnomer in Olga's case. Olga has had multiple careers. She's been highly successful at all of them. And just right now, the University of Sydney is very lucky to have her in the media and communications. We've worked with Olga on another project, a number of projects, beginning with the social science. Olga, you'll have to tell me the name again. It's got, the Sydney
Summer Institute in Computational Social Sciences.
Computational Social Science, that's right. And from that model, that's that institute, 2-week intensive, we got the model for our Institute in Sexuality Studies. So I've had many reasons to be grateful that I've known Olga. And most recently, what Olga did was she landed SIVA and brought SIVA to us. So Olga, if you could just talk to us about that, that would be great.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for such a generous introduction, Lee. So yes, I would like to share more about our collaboration with Professor Siva Vaidyanathan. Siva is a professor in media studies at the University of Virginia. He is probably one of the most prominent academics in my field in critical internet studies. His whole work is on the impact of social media on democracy. And it so happened that I had been teaching Siva's books throughout my PhD. I've been reading them. I cite him religiously. And so um, I just happened to see him at a conference once in my final year of PhD, and that is where I got introduced to him. So and since then we've been developing that relationship. And so every year at the International Communication Association annual conference, I would run into Siva. We would exchange a few words, and over the years since 2019 and onwards, we had sort of maintained I guess knowledge of each other and caught up once a year. And so in 2021, I remember we had a particularly interesting check-in that was right before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It was kind of, well, it was about to happen. And so we had a chat about that, and Siva had expressed interest in my work. He saw where the alignment is, and he also said that he's always been wanting to come to the University of Sydney because he knew about the discipline of media and communications. And so that is we just had that that informal meeting, and that's how it went. And so the next year, it was 2022, we met in Paris for the International Communication Association annual conference, and we decided to kind of bring this collaboration to fruition by applying for one of the SSHARC fellowships. And so we actually wrote our application right there at the conference. We met a few times, we finished things up, and we submitted it, and Siva was successful, and he was able to come and be a SSHARC fellow in 2023, which is last year. He spent almost a month at the University of Sydney. It was an amazing collaboration. We met pretty much, it was very intensive in a sense that we met every day, and we spent a few days every day writing. He also was a very active participant of the community. He met for a lot of early career and established researchers. He met a lot of people in Sydney who are interested in working in his area. He had a chance to mentor PhD students when he was here. He also gave a public talk, which we have on video now, which there is a record of. And we finished work on a collaborative research article. That is our first. We have plans to write a book together. So there's a lot of work kind of ongoing since his visit in August 2023. We are about to submit a large grant based on our work together. So that's to the Internet Society Foundation. The deadline is tomorrow, so I'm a little bit in a bit of a different mindset, I guess, right now, because yeah, I still probably still have an Excel spreadsheet in front of my eyes as I speak. So anyway, it's been a really successful collaboration. We both got a lot out of it, and really the kind of the, I guess, yeah, the generosity with which Siva came to the University of Sydney, and the generosity of SSHARC with which he was received, I feel like it was really a positive experience, and yeah, a good, I guess, example of what a fellowship could be and do. And so I'd be really happy to answer any questions you might have about our collaboration. Hopefully provide you with some details if you're considering one for yourself, or now or in the future. I guess I just wanted to say that those relationships, they do take a lot of time to foster, and it is probably better to already have a very good kind of awareness of each other's work and understanding of each other's work before the fellow arrives in Sydney, because that just allows you to really use that time together very effectively and efficiently, and producing a lot of the outputs that are the goal. So yes, very thankful to SSHARC for this opportunity, as is Siva. He really wants to come back, and so hopefully we will be able to fund him independently this time to spend some more time at Sydney.
Okay, thanks so much, Olga. And I can really confirm that Siva was very genial, very generous with his time, and very grateful for anything that we did for him. So we like those qualities in well, in anyone really, but especially in a fellow. So thank you for that. Again, so what we've got now, just to show you the full range of what we do at SSHARC, I'm going to introduce you to Indigo Willing, who's a current fellow, who's here with us for the whole year again. So Indigo is affiliated to Griffith, and she's making her mark as a skateboard scholar. And again, I think you'll see from Indigo's account of herself and what she's been doing with us, just how wide and broad our understanding, generous our understanding of what research, excellent research is. So Indigo.
Okay, thank you so much, Lee and Aisha, for inviting me in to talk. So I do a lot of research, but I also have a lot of community involvement and activations. So as Lee mentioned, I am an affiliate with Griffith University, and I teach in the area of qualitative research, but I'm doing work up there with the Australian Human Rights Commission as well, looking at a huge anti-racism project. But my full passion is skateboarding and looking at marginalised populations. So this is just a snapshot of the communities that I meet in skateboarding. And if we can go to the next slide. I work with various projects. Thank you. I work with various projects, and I won't run through them now, but there are links if anyone's really interested in exploring what they are in more detail, and I'm happy to speak about them. A couple of them are skateboarding projects with a strong focus on women, non-binary and queer-led communities, and just bringing together people across different backgrounds to make places more inclusive, welcoming and progressive. So if we can move to the next slide, please. I approached SSHARC just as I had my first book come out, a co-written book with Anthony Pappalardo on Palgrave. So I'm a mid-career to early career researcher in terms of my publications outputs, because I shifted actually my field of interest quite recently, maybe 5 years ago, to skateboarding. It's a passion of mine. And so I came to SSHARC with my first published monograph. There's some pictures of some cats there. There's always a joke that they say published with purpose. And as my book started going up to social media, and people know I love cats, a lot of researchers and friends and people buying the book and even the podcast started posting pictures of my book with cats. So it's become a really nice sort of, I guess, informal way of publicizing my book. So now I say published with purpose, with a little bit of a pun. I also do community projects, as I mentioned. So Consent is Read is one of them. And while being at SSHARC, I've kind of gone from a community, I guess, advocate and working community organisations to being on the board with Skaterstan, of which Tony Hawk is also on the board. So really, SSHARC gives you a lot of confidence and a lot of mobility to take your passions and bring them to a greater platform to do more, I guess, have a greater outreach with your work. So the next one, please. I've also recently been invited to be part of the His Summer School, which was wonderful. And I was able to take that community-run project of Consent is Read and bring it to various scholars and international scholars, different backgrounds, and say, what would you do for this campaign? And what would you like to say to the queer skateboarding community? And we had some just fun making up signs for that community and putting it on social media. It was one of our most popular campaigns. So thank you again, SSHARC, for offering that opportunity. But the reason that I'm here is my Skate, Create and Educate and Regenerate project. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. Thank you so much. I approached Dr. Sana Mestrom from FAS, so that's my collaborator. I was aware of her public artwork, but also just her interest in rethinking public space and making it more accessible to everybody. And rather than having boundaries around things that you build, actually letting children come in and play with them. And I said, what about skateboarding? Your stuff looks actually skatable. And we had this really great synergy of our interest in rethinking cities and making them more playful. Could we go to the next one? Thank you. So my other actually collaborator that I've reached out to through SSHARC and through this fellowship is Associate Professor Leanne Loke, who is with the School of Architecture, Design and Planning. And in 2019, she did a skateboarding project where she brought interactive design into the space. So normally when skaters go there, it's very macho, it's very masculine driven, and there's a particular way people think you behave. But as a sociologist for me, I wanted to see who's being excluded and what's being excluded. Leanne's work really pushes that wide open to bring in different forms of play and different kinds of technologies. So some of the outcomes with SHARC that I've had so far. SHARC really opens doors, and Lee's mentorship cannot be, I don't have enough words to thank Lee for the mentorship I've received already in the few months that I've been here. So my project and my team have been successful in getting a couple of smaller grants so far, but from that HIS summer school, I was able to also meet new collaborators and apply under the umbrella of my project for extra money for some branching out with some different projects. We've got 4 publications on the way. And then the next one, the last one. Lastly, what's really great with SHARC in my time here is that we've applied for a City of Sydney grant. So I've moved from receiving these $5,000 grants that I thought were awesome to opening up my mind and saying, no, like go for 30, 50, 100,000. So we have applied for 2 grants so far for the value of 60,000, but they're under review. And my team are in talks with the Wollongong Council at the moment, who have 4 skate park projects, I think to the value of 6 million. And they're really looking at inclusive programs within that. So they're reaching out to researchers and where they're people, hopefully. The Home of the Arts up in Queensland did a huge sneaker exhibition. And from this project, again, we've approached them saying, we're doing this amazing work down here on skateboarding. Would you consider something similar? And through opportunities here at SHARC as well, I was able to write an article in The Conversation about subcultures and sneakers. And then I think there are 3 last ones: the Australian Sports Commission, Skate Australia, and then lastly, the Sydney Centre for Healthy Societies are 3 more people that we're reaching out to. And I really want to thank SHARC for introducing me to that last one, the Sydney Centre for Healthy Societies over at FAST, who have such a very strong ARC track record. And they were more than helpful when I reached out to them and said, I'm a fellow with SHARC, can we meet and talk about some, excuse my typo there, potential research collaborations maybe. And they've already organised a meeting with 6 of their researchers for me and my partners in my collaboration to meet with, I think, next week. So thank you, SHARC. Go for it if you want to apply. Have a passion, have a purpose, and really just be very authentic and show how much you are ready for your project and your passions to go to the next level, because I think that's what SHARC is perfect for. Thank you. Thank you.
Lee, you're on mute.
All right, thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Indigo. You can see that Indigo is unstoppable. So Indigo, if I said she has affiliations to Griffith, and now she has the affiliation to SHARC. So she's a SHARC fellow for the whole of this year, and we can nominally next year. I think we'll probably likely be extending that again with no additional funding. But it's just what Indigo has done is she's brought us all these external partnerships. So that we're named on or in the same, understood to be under the same umbrella as these partnerships with Relationships Australia and other people that we have had on our sites, but now Indigo has enabled us to gain some track record with those external funders. So we're very keen on that. So again, a very broad understanding of what research impact can be. And it's a good example of a fellow reaching out to a University of Sydney academic and then through that building a network across time. So again, last year, I'll just give you some stats that Aisha's pulled together for us. So in the last year for the last fellowship round, we had 38 applications, which was actually twice as many as the year before. So if we continue that, we would expect to get around 80 applications this year. So we've been building this fellowship scheme and advertising it internationally and nationally, making it clear too that it's for national fellows, like people from other universities like Indigo that might want to come and work with us. And of that, last year we appointed 15 fellows. So last year it was a 39% success rate, where if you know the ARC, that's a very high success rate. And the applications came from 15 different universities around the world. The most came from the UK, 22% from North America, the same from Europe, 11% from Australia, and then 8% from Asia, with 1 from South Africa as well. So we're really keen to build our connections in the region. We've noticed that with HIS that we tend to get a lot of North American trained applicants, but we're really keen to build our connections up through the region as well. So again, that doesn't exclude anyone. We look for authenticity. I think Indigo used that word. We really want authentic collaborations, people who want to partner and want to build their networks. And I said, I think that's why we tend to favor early and mid-career fellows, people who are still very open about where their futures are and what their collaborations might be, and a very broad understanding of where their research might take them. So okay, so the guidelines are all up. The application form is open and you have until midnight Australian time. So if you're in the UK or the US, please note that the online system will close at 12 o'clock Australian time. And I think we've now scheduled the selection committee for the last week in June. And that selection committee will include somebody from the arts, social sciences, a representative of the Associate Dean Research, a former fellow, and then somebody from outside that. So again, we try and get a diverse committee, and we try and we think carefully about what we're curating over the scheme. So again, there are no exclusions. It's really is what people are offering us. So again, you've got time still. If you don't have a host at Sydney, you're welcome to get in touch and I can make some suggestions for you. But I will say the other thing that I remember one of the other academic fellows said, it's really important if you bring a fellow in that you clear your calendar so that you can spend meaningful time with them. So think about that when you're thinking about it scheduling. If a fellow is saying they want to come in when it's your heavy teaching semester, it really may not be the best time. And then you will be disappointed, we'll be disappointed, it'll just be a bit of a lost opportunity. So think carefully about that. And again, you may not know that partnership may not be in place yet. Sorry about the dogs of Glebe. But I would really strongly suggest that you Zoom with each other before you put the application in, to understand that there is something between you, that there's some kind of chemistry, some kind of research chemistry that indicates that you'll work well together. And then I said one of the things that we would really like you to do while you're a fellow while they're here is to engage with our HDR, our PhD population in some way, but we have some ideas for that. We have ideas for salons and things, and little kind of protocols for how you can run a 2-hour workshop. Could be a publication workshop or could be something much more specific than that. But that's the kind of thing that you would do. We're not too interested in public facing talks unless there's a ready-made audience for them. So again, but I said what Indigo has brought us was unimaginable before the application landed, and then we suddenly saw so much potential there. So I'd really encourage you to apply. And I said we very much like to meet new fellows, to support them. They get great support from Aisha and Grace the whole way through, from the moment that we accept them to the moment that they leave. If we really like you, we'd like to gift you a pair of Qantas pajamas as you leave. And we've been known also to take little videos of the plane a fellow arrives in and the plane they depart in, which we can see from the SSHARC window. So that is the end-to-end service that SSHARC offers. Thank you. That's great. Anything else there, Aisha?
No, just questions.
Yeah.
And I'll stop the recording now.
Okay, we'll stop the recording. Thank you very much.